Good morning, everyone, and welcome to your neighborhood Unitarian Universalist congregation. My name is Susanne Maziarz, and I have your news and announcements for the coming week. Taking Action to Dismantle Racism workshop with Donovan Hayden is happening today, right after service, for an hour from 12:15 to 1:15 p.m. Join Donovan in collectively learning how you can engage in anti-racism work, recognizing the congregation's strengths, resources, and capacity can give us the fire and purpose as we take next steps in the fight against racism. Hope you'll stay after service for the workshop. The Sisters to Sisters Flood Relief Campaign to support young girls and women in Pakistan needs donations of winter blankets, sanitary items, and sewing machines. You can drop that off at the Jackman entrance, which is the accessible entrance. Speak with Laura for more info. Is Laura here today? She's coming. Okay, she's here. You can talk to her after service. Our 2023 speaker series for the Danforth Multi-Faith Commons, Reducing Food Insecurity, New Ideas for an Ongoing Crisis. That's on Zoom on Tuesday, January 31st at 7 p.m. Join our Social and Environmental Action Committee and our partners from East End United and the Danforth Jewish Circle in a discussion about programs that are working to reduce food insecurity and new ideas going forward. Details will be in the Monday email. Games night at Neighborhood. You are invited to attend an evening of board games. That's on Saturday, January 21st from 6 to 10 here in the sanctuary. All are welcome. And if you have a board game that you enjoy and you'd like to share, please bring it. Also bring a beverage of your choice and snack. That is hosted by Gordon Klee and Gail Reynard. Ongoing activities at Neighborhood include spirit choir rehearsals happening every Monday night from 7 to 9 p.m. You can speak to me if you're interested in joining the choir. And in our art gallery, Lauren Renzetti's Meadow Meditations and Ravinder Ruprai's Angry Red Lines come down on January 22nd. So you just have, is that a week left to view the artworks that are on display now, because opening January 27th is Peter Marmerick's show, Images from the Lava Lands, with a special reception on February 4th from 5 to 7 p.m. Thanks, Peter. Rentals here at Neighborhood. We have an amazing space here. Did you know that you or other people you know can rent our space? Fees vary according to the room. Individuals who are members can rent the space at a reduced cost. EEU also rents space, including the bowling alley downstairs. If you wish to host an event, our space is a neighborhood event that is open to all our members. Our space is available at no cost. You need to book through Hala at office@nuuc.ca, and she'll give you all the info about rates and dates. Common Thread in the Street. First rehearsal of 2023 is happening tonight from 7 to 8:30 p.m. That's open to everyone. Common Thread in the Streets is a social justice choirs. Come to learn songs for singing at rallies, pickets, demonstrations, and marches. You can speak to me for more info on CTS. Annual budget meeting is happening Sunday, January 29th after service from 12:30 to 2:30. All are welcome to attend. Only members can vote. Is this a voting meeting? It is a voting meeting. Okay, to approve the budget. Correct. Wonderful. Information will be sent out in the Monday mailing in advance of the meeting. And if you are not on our Monday mailing list, you can get on it by writing to office@nuuc.ca. This week's question to the community: how do you find yourself awoken to anti-racism by the eighth principle, and what can you do to bridge the divide? have a thought about that. It'll be our question following the service. Next Sunday, our theme will be caring for our world and spiritual growth through our multi-faith social justice partnerships. Our speakers will be Liat Radcliffe-Ross from the DJC and Karen Somerville from EEU. Service weavers will be our own Nancy Vanderplas and Laura Thomas, co-chairs of our C committee. Music provided by Susanne, that's me, and friends.
Adjusting this. Good morning.
Morning, Kurt.
And welcome to our neighborhood Unitarian Universalist congregation, to those here in our sanctuary at 310 Danforth, and those who are joining us spiritually on Zoom. Readjusting this a bit. Okay, that's better. My name is Kurt Thomson, and I will be your service weaver this morning. If you haven't already done so, please turn off all distractions that are electronic unless they are needed for your participation in the service. Find a comfortable place to sit and just leave the outside world for a while. It'll be there when we're done. Let us come in here and find a way we can grow in ourselves and be better people to ourselves and to the world and to others around us. This is our threshold moment. The symbol of our faith is a lit chalice. I now ask Chris Emmanuel to please come and light our chalice. And please join us in our chalice invocation song when this is lit. We light this chalice to remember, to light the fire within our own hearts. And now for our prelude. Susanne, would you care to please introduce it? Well, or Allison.
This song was inspired by various events in the writer's life, Sam Cooke. Most prominently when he and his entourage were turned away from an all-white motel in Louisiana. Cooke felt compelled to write a song about his struggle and of those around him, and that pertained to the civil rights movement and African Americans. This is called A Change Gonna Come. But I'm afraid to die, 'cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long, long time coming, but I know change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. I go to the movie and I go downtown. And somebody keep telling me don't hang around. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. Then I go to my brother and I say, brother, help me please. But he winds up knocking me back down on my knees. Oh, there have been times that I thought I couldn't life carry on, but now I think I'm able to carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will.
Thank you, Allison. That rousing idea of growth and social evolution. We stand here in this congregation and in our homes on the lands of the Wendat, the Anishinaabeg Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Mississaugas of the New Credit, and other First Nations who have been on this land for time out of memory, joined by the Métis and Inuit peoples, and by other indigenous groups, including Black and other people of color. Susanne Maziarz is our musical director, who is very soulfully playing on the piano this morning. Our director of child and caregiving program is Zoriah Getchell. Mike Kozowski is our Zoom Tech host. And Gordon Thorne is doing our AV service here in the sanctuary. And it is my esteemed pleasure to welcome Mr. Donovan Hayden, a longtime friend and member of this who's been a member of this congregation, who will be offering our message of inspiration this morning. Guess I didn't quite see what was going on there, but that was cool. Which I never see anyway. Our mission here at Neighborhood is to empower spiritual growth and shared action for the care of our world. If you are a new person here, please come again, and we hope you will come again, because our services vary from week to week. Our theme for January is wintering. And Donovan will be discussing the reflections on Martin Luther King and the eighth principle. As people who are white and settlers and who have ancestors who were probably maybe slave owners in our pasts, it may be hard for us to understand the problems that people who are Black and of color go through, and their struggle for freedom and equality and dignity. But there are ways for many of us to understand this and empathize with it in some way. People who are women, for example, for many years have been subjugated by the patriarchal culture. And I myself, as a person with a disability, know what it feels like to be subjugated and relegated to underclass human standards. When we recognize these issues, we can in some degree empathize with people who are black and of color and learn to treat them with equality and dignity. And since this is Martin Luther King's time, I will speak of something that Martin Luther King said that relates very much to this idea of wokeness. We are all tied together in the single garment of destiny, caught in an inescapable network of mutuality. What affects one directly affects all indirectly. And for some strange reason, I can never be what I ought to be until you are who you ought to be. And you can never be who you ought to be until I am what I ought to be. Now, let us take a moment to recognize how we are all connected to each other here in the sanctuary and on Zoom, and take a moment to greet your neighbor. Please adopt a distance if they are comfortable or not with it, and then maybe greet some people on Zoom. A chime will announce the time to come back.
Hey, Doug. Hi, Julie. Hello, Susan. Hi, Angie.
Hello.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi, everyone.
Long time no see. Hi, Gordon. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, John.
Hi.
Hello.
Juliana.
Hi, everybody. Glad to
Okay.
see everyone.
Okay, I can-
Hi, David.
Wow.
Hi. Singing for a day.
That's good.
Good to see you all.
Good to see you, Lynn.
And now, if you will read with me our opening words, which will be projected on our screens. If you are in a place where you cannot read these words and you do not know them, just listen to the words and let the feeling come over you. Let us cast a circle of a sacred space here. Let us cast a circle of a cherished space here. A space of safety, a place of forgiveness, a place of love. If we want the world to change, we must craft in our space and in ourselves the seeds that grow a different kind of life. A life of graciousness, of creative intelligence, a place of life and spirit for ourselves and our families. And now, as we find ourselves open to grace and insight, let us rise in spirit for opening song. Susanne?
All in response.
Sing with me, everyone.
Oh, Martin Luther King.
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 And I just want to say your name.
And I just want to say your name.
He said, I have a dream. He said, I have a dream. He said, I have a dream. And I just want to say your name. It's up to us to keep the dream alive. It's up to us to keep the dream alive. It's up to us to keep the dream alive. Then I just want to say your name. Oh, Martin Luther King. Oh, Martin Luther King. Oh, Martin Luther King. And I just want to say your name. And I just want to say your name. And I just want to say your name. Say your name.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to call the young and young at heart up to the front because it's time for our Time for All Ages. And I want to start our Time for All Ages today by thanking Donovan Hayden, who's come today to join us to talk about Martin Luther King and the 8th Unitarian Universalist principle. Thank you for coming. So if somehow you haven't heard the name before, Dr. Martin Luther King was a black man who lived in a time, a not that long ago time, when black people were treated horribly, and he fought very hard to make things better. He fought with his words, and his messages were very powerful. So powerful they lasted through the years and are still important today. But how is his message understood today? How is it the dream kept alive? What would he say if he were here today? There's a speech competition for children that happens in the States, and one of their topics last year was just that. What would Martin Luther King think about the progress that's been made, and what would he say to kids today? I found a video from Good Morning America that has some clips from these speeches that I really wanted to share with you about what other kids are saying and what wisdom they take from Martin Luther King today. Mike, can you roll the clip for us?
The question was asked, how Dr. King assessed our progress in achieving his vision for America.
The heart of the people is the heartbeat of the country.
I feel like we're taking baby steps towards success while we should be taking giant leaps.
Racism is one of the biggest problems in the world right now, and it really shouldn't be, because there's only one race, the human race.
Dr. King envisioned a world of love, not hate, and he constantly tells us not to go backwards, but forward. Dr. King wanted all people to enjoy the benefits of equality. His vision isn't too difficult to achieve. Do you agree?
He fought for equality for all, and he fought for justice.
He stood for kindness, respect, and helping other people to learn not to be disrespectful.
He makes me think that if someone else is getting treated wrong or bullied, I could stand up for them.
Although I believe that we haven't yet achieved Dr. King's vision, I do believe that the vision is not lost.
In the future, I believe we can accomplish Dr. King's dream, my dream, our dream.
So my brothers and sisters, I ask each of you, at the sound of my voice, let's come together, use our power, and work to make Dr. King's dream a reality for today, tomorrow, and forever. If one man can make such an impact on this world, imagine if we are all open to change. It starts with us. It starts today.
Thank you for that. Shall we go off to our room now?
Now we come to a time of meditation or prayer, whichever word suits your spirituality. Take a moment to find yourself in a comfortable position. Relax your mind. I will say a few words, and then shortly after, Susanne will play to bring us out. Allow yourself to feel inside and out the connection with the earth, a connection with your neighbors, whether they are the same or different. They speak the same or they speak different. They look the same or they look different. Our differences matter. Feel the difference. Yet feel the sameness within the difference, and the difference within the sameness. Take that even deeper. slowly bring yourselves back to this space and this time. It is now my great pleasure to invite Donovan Hayden to speak. Donovan is an activist, a theater creator, and an organizer who has spoken to Unitarians both here and in the United States. And his play that was performed during the Toronto Fringe Festival in 2022 will now be performed at Theatre Passe Muraille. It's called X and the Spirit, which will be performed in February. Donovan?
Good morning, everybody. Tomorrow is Martin Luther King Day, an official holiday in the United States. Although not a holiday here, it is still an important day for Canadians to reflect on Dr. King and the anti-racism work that he dedicated his life to. Martin Luther King Day holds a deep significance for me, as it is where my activism began. I have told the story many times before at Neighborhood, but I'll give a refresher to those who may have not heard it or don't remember. I don't blame you. There's been a lot that's went on the last 6 years since I last spoke here. It is understood by many black writers and thinkers that black people in North America can identify one salient moment where they realize their blackness. It is in this revelation that being black has unescapable consequences that tie you to a history deeper than your skin. You are left to face with the truth, its beauty, its ugliness, and everything in between. Martin Luther King Day was that day, as I understood what it meant to be black in this place. It is my black anniversary, if you will. At 15 years old, I was subject to relentless anti-black racism from my close friends. They used jokes and slurs to demean me for years. But on Martin Luther King Day in 2013, I had enough. 15-year-old me demanded of myself, how can I let this happen on a day dedicated to people who courageously fought against racism? I channeled their spirit. I channeled my father. I channeled Dr. King. I stood up for myself and resisted. My black rage poured out on those boys and has never stopped flowing. I tell that story to remind us that the impact of figures like Dr. King do not stop at quotes or historical trivia. They live on and consistently ask us life-defining questions. It also reminds us that they too were real people, making decisions, getting tired, and trying to fight for what is right. It is through that perspective I try, not always cleanly, but I do try, to engage with revered and often deified figures like Dr. King. Nobody is above criticism, and his words are not scripture. However, we can look at his words and actions to think of our own context, in our place, in our fight against racial injustice. It was not until after the summer of 2020 that I really began to engage with Dr. King's writings and tactics. It took some unlearning. Early in my life, Dr. King had been served to me on a white-friendly, anti-revolutionary, pacifying platter. Like many activists of my generation, I wholly rejected Dr. King and his principles of nonviolence as outdated, misguided, and ineffective. It was hard to accept Dr. King, as I felt that he only really existed for people to discredit me and my cohort for not being king-like or too radical. As my principles as an activist and organizer are continuing to be developed and tested, I am compelled to reevaluate my relationship with Dr. King. To my surprise, King was in fact complex, anti-capitalist, and radical. I was particularly drawn to his letter from a Birmingham jail. Often see a few head nods, people are familiar. I was particularly brought to this letter as I joined the push for Unitarians to adopt the eighth principle. In the open letter, Dr. King addressed the empty calls for unity by white clergymen. Dr. King asked the question, quote, "Is organized religion too inextricably linked to the status quo to save our nation and the world?" End quote. Through the eighth principle, we ask that of ourselves and of our faith. The eighth principle started many insightful conversations, inspired people to act, and changed minds. I am affirmed by the work being done to educate ourselves, urge others to take action, and support the movement. Folks are at different stages, and that's all right, as long as we are working towards a common goal. However, through my work on the eighth principle, I was exposed to small pockets of Unitarians whose racist ideals and actions still take up space in our congregations. It is important in any major decision in a group to have differing opinions. But what was different and worrisome to me was how defiant the detractors were. I watched as racialized UUs and allies gave passionate and eloquent testimonies on the eighth principle based in data and lived experience, only to be ignored or discredited. In that letter, Dr. King admonished the actions and beliefs of white people who had openly criticized his disruptive protest. He charged white moderates, as he described, with being, quote, "more devoted to order than to justice, for preferring a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice," end quote. He too references hearing the same sentiment that I heard from Unitarians. Quote, "I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods," unquote. Throughout the eighth principle process, I heard UUs often claim that anti-racism was happening too fast. To that, I again found solace in that letter, in Dr. King's words. He stated, "For years now, I have heard the word wait. It rings in the ear of every Negro with piercing familiarity. This wait has always meant never." In connection with King, I could identify some of the objections over method, timing, and wording of the eighth principle as stumbling blocks to justice. Although scathing, King's letter was not a call-out. It was a call-in. There are Unitarians who will never accept the eighth principle or listen to why it's important. I don't have much time for that. And I only hope that eventually they do open their hearts. Who I do want to call in are the folks that are hesitant, uncertain, or feel hopeless in engaging in anti-racism work. I understand that feeling. I am still learning and don't have the answers. I often find myself confused, depleted, and frustrated. But going on that search for truth and meaning in liberation work with others brings a joy and an energy that is truly unmatched. We now have this principle. But how do we follow it with consistent action? It is encouraging to see congregations like NUUC creating anti-racism groups, prioritizing Black people and material in their services, and openly stating support for movements like Black Lives Matter. We must now make good on our promises to tangibly support racial justice. As Dr. King proclaimed in his final speech before his assassination, be true to what you said on paper. Our promise of the eighth principle needs to be followed by action. We can look at Dr. King's principles of nonviolence to help guide us in living the eighth principle. To my surprise, as I came to actually engage with nonviolence and the principles of it, the passive ideals that had been dangled over me were not as they appeared. I quickly realized that the principles of nonviolence were actually very in line with many of the actions that we took in the summers or in the years of 2020 and 2021. The most significant principle of Dr. King's nonviolence is that it is meant to be disruptive and create tension, whereas I had been taught that it was meant to pacify and keep us home. Back to the letter from a Birmingham jail, King stated, quote, "Nonviolent direct action seeks to create such a crisis and foster such a tension that a community which has constantly refused negotiation is forced to confront the issue. It seeks to dramatize the issue so that it can no longer be ignored." End quote. It is this focus on disruption you can use to frame our work. We can ask questions that lead to action. What disrupts the way we always imagine social change? Or more specifically in our context, what disrupts the erasure and sanitizing of racism in Canadian history? What disrupts the devaluing of homeless and poor people in our streets? What disrupts the thinking that more police equals safety? What disrupts a system that is more concerned with profit than the people who live here? Since the adoption of the eighth principle, Unitarians are left to ask this question, congregationally and individually. How do we dismantle racism? I know there are mixed emotions on committing ourselves to action. So I should end by saying this. I feel most proud to be a Unitarian when I'm engaging with the eighth principle. 3 years ago, I could never have imagined myself saying that or feeling that. This moment in our faith has made it an energizing time to be a young Black Unitarian. In fact, it is an energizing time to be a Unitarian, period. We have just begun the journey to dismantle racism and white supremacy, to make our congregations truly safe and inclusive places, to meet new and inspiring people that will lead us. The fight for the eighth principle has been tough, but it has also been exhilarating. Watching people's minds change and connecting with committed UUs has been spiritually awakening. A feeling I'm sure Dr. King felt as he walked with other faith leaders across the Pettus Bridge in Selma. There are some who don't know which way the wind is blowing and will undermine this great work. But as Dr. King sang with his cohort of disruptors, I ain't gonna let nobody turn me round. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking. Let us keep on walking, talking, and living the eighth principle. Thank you.
We now come to a time in our service when we think about the stabilization of this community, the growth of this community in other ways than just our spirits and our hands. The building, our staff, our community needs funds to grow. Like a plant that we feed with water and sunlight, this place needs cash in order to grow. I know it's an awkward pun, but I feel it's a good one. Those of you on Zoom, you may find a link to our donations page, if you would. And those who have automatic withdrawals and monthly checks, we thank you. I ask the greeters to come forward with the baskets, please. Thank you. While we enjoy our offering music.
Our offering song today is Dr. King's proclaimed favorite hymn, Precious Lord, Take My Hand. It was sung at his funeral by Mahalia Jackson, and then sung at Mahalia's funeral by Aretha Franklin. And you're welcome to join in singing it with Allison and I. The composer of this hymn is Thomas Dorsey, who wrote it when his wife died giving birth to the son who then also died. Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, help me stand. I am tired, I am weak, I am worn. Through the storm, through the night, lead me on to
Precious Lord, lead me home. Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I am tired, I am weak, I am worn. Through the storm, through the night, lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me home.
If you have found home here, love, kindred spirits, and a future for yourselves and others, please let this offering be a token to our greater future and our greater good. Now, if you would, please rise in spirit for a closing song.
So the movement for civil rights in the U.S. was fueled strongly by music and song. This song, Keep Your Eyes on the Prize, was sung in Martin Luther King's time. I'd like to point out that these songs were learned in community, in spiritual community, and then taken out to the streets with maybe a word change here or there, sung typically in reference to Christian ideals and Jesus. And then because these songs were shared in faith groups all around the country, when people came together, they already knew the tunes and could join in song quickly together. This song is based on a tune called Gospel Plow. I first learned the song in an activist context when I was in Portland, Oregon for a Unitarian conference. And white supremacists had come to do a big demonstration downtown Portland. And I learned that a month ago they had come and brought buses from rural Oregon of people coming in to demonstrate at the City Hall in Portland. And the City Hall property has a no guns allowed, on government property. So they had come back a month later to hold another white supremacist demonstration in the park where they could have their guns out. So there was many counter-protesters coming down to make sure to drown out the voices of those white supremacists, and this is one of the songs that we sang there. I will assume you know the tune, and if you don't, you'll know it in just a minute by singing it with us. Oh, the one thing we did right was the day we started to fight. Keep your eyes on the prize, hold on. Got my hands on the freedom plow, wouldn't take nothing for my journey now. Keep your eyes on the prize, hold on. Hold on, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize, hold on. Hold a new verse. When united, it is clear we don't have to live in fear. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Building walls and spreading hate will not make our countries great. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on.
That piece of music does not make me want to say what I have to say now. Because I want to stay in this circle forever and ever and ever and keep singing songs like this to help us feel equal and dignified. But I must say this. But we guess, take this to the streets. So we come to the time in our service where we form a circle and with mutual respect either hold arms or link arms or take a little distance and fold our hands and say namaste. I invite Chris and Manuel to please come and extinguish our chalice as we sing our extinguishing piece. Those who are here and those who are on Zoom who do not wish to enter a breakout room or go into chat, thank you for being here. But if you do so wish to join a breakout room, just a reminder that our question is, how have you awakened yourselves to the eighth principle and anti-racism? And what can you do to bridge that divide? In closing, I will say this. I hope that you find the wokeness in yourself and connected to those around you. Our service has ended. Let us go in peace. Hallelujah!